Hi everyone, so excited to be here again on this webinar. Today we'll be looking at a very important technology, GraphQL. I know most of you have heard of GraphQL, so you're still wondering what GraphQL is. So we'll be doing an executive briefing on GraphQL. So this webinar is meant for anybody who maybe you're working on the front end, you're working on the back end, you want to hear about GraphQL, you want to know about GraphQL, or you're just curious about GraphQL, or you're already using GraphQL. At the end of this webinar, you'll be able to learn a lot. So just sit tight. If you're having a cup of coffee or you're having a drink, grab and relax. You're going to learn a lot. Okay, so next, who am I? Okay, my name is Kelechi Oliver. I'm a full stack web developer. I've been working with React, Node, and GraphQL. I've been using REST and some other toolings. This content also is being packaged, created, and provided to you by the content team at Developer Circles Port Harcourt, of which most of us too are members of. So that's it about me. You can join, you can follow me on Twitter, you can go to my GitHub or LinkedIn using those links there on the slides. So let's dive in. What is GraphQL? At the first, when you're looking at the technology, you want to know what it is. You want to, explore. You want to have a concept if it fits into what you want. So, what is GraphQL? GraphQL is a query language for APIs. It's a spec that describes a descriptive query language that your client can use to ask an API for the exact data they want. This is achieved by creating a strongly typed schema for your API. Ultimately, flexibility in how your API can resolve data and client queries validate against your schema. Now, that might sound really big. Now, the ease of it all is that GraphQL is a spec. GraphQL is a spec, that specification created by Facebook internally. It was used internally by Facebook until it was open sourced. Now, GraphQL is not like one framework or one library that sits in a repository where someone has written all the codes and all that. GraphQL is a spec in the sense that somebody defined how the language to be used. In fact, GraphQL has its own language called a schema definition language. Schema definition language. Now, looking at my definition of GraphQL, GraphQL is a query language for APIs. Now, what do you understand by APIs? APIs are application programming interface. They provide a means for two entities in an application to talk to each other. And these entities now, maybe most times we refer to them as sometimes your back end talking to your front end talking to your back end. Each of these entities talking to each other, passing data. It's either your back end is making a request to your front end is making a request to the back end for something, or your front end is also making a request to the back end to collect something or to send something. Either ways, that's what APIs in a nutshell is. So when it says it's a query language, what that simply means is that GraphQL allows you to query, like where you have your normal SQL database where you request for a particular user with a given ID and you get what you requested for back. Now, GraphQL is in the same way. When you ask the API for something, you specify what you want. The API returns just that and nothing more. So GraphQL most times it comes to solve the problem of REST. REST stands for Representational State Transfer, which is referred to as a RESTful form of APIs, where you create APIs using different endpoints, and each endpoint returns a particular entity or returns a particular data. So GraphQL now, in its own way, just provides a means for you to query your GraphQL API and get just what you want. So that's what all this is saying here. GraphQL is a query language for APIs. It specs that describe a descriptive query language that your clients in this case can be your web application, your mobile application, your wristwatch, or anything that is just needing data. Sometimes can be maybe your IoT device and all that. So can query for your clients can ask. Your client can use to ask an API for the exact data they want. This is achieved by creating a strongly typed schema for your API. Ultimate flexibility in how your API can resolve data and client queries validated against your schema. Now, what this is saying is that those requests that your client is making is being validated, is being created by your schema. Your schema defines the data that your clients can get, and under your schemas, you have what they call resolvers. We'll go into details as we go on. I'm just giving you a full, complete overview of what GraphQL is like. Now, when you're defining your schemas, you add resolvers. Resolvers are just simply functions that, maybe communicate with a database or a third-party API and returns data for you that your clients get. Okay. So over here you have the documentation for GraphQL. We'll open. I told you that GraphQL is a spec, so we can also look at that spec. I'll go over here to graphql.org. You see, this is the GraphQL website. It tells you describe your data, ask for what you want, and you get predicted results. So when making requests, you already know the shape of the data that is to return. So I will also, if I click here now, I'll see the spec of GraphQL, showing you that this is the spec. You can see the working draft. You can see we're not in a repository or something, we're just in the website. When I click on June 2008, that was what the latest released. I see this is the spec. Everything about GraphQL is written here. When you're trying to build or starting up with GraphQL, you might not really come here much, because most of the time the tools you'll be using uses these specs to build out what you use. Those tools will be exploring them very soon, but this is the spec. When they talk about GraphQL specs, this is it. GraphQL does not depend on any language. Like, it's not like GraphQL is only used in JavaScript or it's used in PHP or something. GraphQL is on its own. You can implement GraphQL in JavaScript, in PHP, in C#, in anything, wherever it is, provided you know how to use the spec and all that. That's what GraphQL is for. So the next slide. Why choose GraphQL? Now, most times when I want to use a technology, I'll try to know what problem that technology is solving, so as I will know how to position myself both for personal goals and for market goals, for employment and all that. So, first of all, why choose GraphQL? First, single endpoint. Now, with the traditional RESTful APIs, REST has several endpoints, and knowing where data lives in different endpoints can be overwhelming. Now, GraphQL comes with a different approach. It has just a single endpoint. That endpoint is what you hit for every of your requests. So you don't have to start going through different endpoints to find your request, to find where to make requests to. The next thing that GraphQL offers is cache. This is very good. Now, what happens with cache is that, remember, your client's application always requests for data, and each time it requests, that takes time, because it's it's going over wires through to your servers and getting that data back. But this time around, with using cache, your GraphQL, your client don't have to request for all those data or go through the process if it already has the data or it has requested for that data before. So that's the ability of GraphQL to cache things. The next thing, it is strongly typed. It has a strongly typed system. Now, on GraphQL, while defining schemas, the name assigned to a particular entity or a type or an object type is what you request for. So why does you always follow the schema? There's this form of structure. When you're using a strongly typed language like Java or C#, when you declare an int, that thing will remain an int. It can never change. So the same thing applicable to GraphQL. When you say, okay, this is the data type, or this is the object type of this field, it will always remain that. So that's where one of the features of GraphQL is strongly typed, and this strongly type allows you to check for errors, allows you to provide structure and all that. Nobody is changing things unnecessarily. There is this strong type system. And now the next thing is that GraphQL is declarative. How is GraphQL declarative? You declare whatever you want and you get just that. I said, okay, I want to get a list of users in my API, and I just make a request. I just need the username and the password of all the users on my backend. I send a request, and that is what I will get back. With the traditional REST, you might be surprised that at the end of the day I might not even get anything, or I'll get several other informations that I don't need. Then I'll start using programming to the structure to pull out what I want from the whole bunch of informations. And the more informations that this REST API tends to send, the more time it takes, in the sense. So if I'm requesting just for a single thing and the REST API is bundling me with so much information, it will cost more time and it will lead to lagging of the application I'm building. The next thing is reduce API request round trip. Now this one is good because GraphQL does what they call caching. Because you request for what you want, it reduces the round trip of you going to the server many times. Like, let's say on the usual REST aspect, if you want to get a particular, maybe a particular item, you first of all get all the items, pick the ID. To get the details of that specific item, you make a request again with the ID before you get details of that specific item. So those, going back and coming forth increases cost and leads to delay. So GraphQL now reduces API request round trips, in the sense that you query for data once and you get all what you want, and also there is caching. Okay, the next thing is better development tools. GraphQL provides you with something called GraphQL and also GraphQL Playground. These tools help you introspect a GraphQL API. Once you just open up the API in your browser, you will see all the queries that are available. You will see all the types, and the way you in fact you see a general documentation. The next thing is enforces structure. Because it's declarative and it's strongly typed, there is also a possibility of structure. Everything that is declared inside the backend, it's what the client can request for. The next thing is documentation. Using the development tools, they all come with documentation. So while writing GraphQL, you're already doing documentation. You don't have to start, creating another task to start writing documentations like the REST API do. So another thing next is improved performance and maintenance. Now this one, GraphQL improves performance by, in the sense that your application tends to run faster. I don't have to get too much data, or I don't have to go too much to get this specific data. If I can get the user ID, I can get everything I need from the user. And also improve maintenance, because I can have a holistical view of my entire API just by looking at the documentation, every endpoint, and understand where each node is pointing to. Now it looks like a graph where this node, a user is pointing to an author is pointing to a book is pointing to an author is pointing to a book, or a book is pointing to an author, or a user is pointing to maybe a profile, and a profile is pointing to an article, something like that. So this kind of data graphs makes it, your API more maintainable and improves performance. So those are the reasons why you should consider choosing GraphQL. The next thing we'll talk about is tools. Before I will talk deeply into GraphQL, I would like us to get to understand some basic tools that you use as a GraphQL or someone looking into using GraphQL. So this one is Graphical. Graphical was created for you to allow you introspect, to understand how the shapes of data are flowing through a GraphQL API. Let's say you want to use a GraphQL API. Somebody just calls you and say, look, guy, I've developed this GraphQL API and I need you to use it in this client application, be it a mobile app or a web application or any sort of application. So how do you understand what the guy have done? How do you understand what data you can request for? It's using this tool, Graphical. So let's open Graphical here. I will open up a test. Okay, this one is pointing to the GitHub repository. Hold on. Okay, I'll open up my browser. I think I have it somewhere. Sorry, I had it all loaded up before I mistakenly closed it. So this is, I've got the API here, so I'll just paste it here. This is a GraphQL API. I'll paste it here, and this is what Graphical looks like. So I don't need to do much. I just paste it there, and I'll get to understand what API gives to me. So on my right here, I have my Explorer. The Explorer just shows you several queries you can make. Then down you have the mutations you can make with this API, and down here you have the subscription. At the center here you have where you can write your query. This is your editor where you can write your query. I can remove all this one and start writing my own query. Then by the right here you have the docs, the documentation. So once I click on docs, I will be able to see the docs, what each query is, how the shape is. The shape, I mean what fields are available there. Here I have query. You can see query here. all the queries that I can make. That like this is telling me that this is users, and users, you can query users using the offset, order, where, and all that. So we'll try it out. This is the capsules. This API returns capsules, has a capsule point too. It has capsules upcoming and all that. This is the SpaceX API, for head of SpaceX. So it's a free GraphQL API you can play around with and get yourself, conversant with GraphQL. So we'll just do one. So an easy way to go about this is, let's find capsules. And I'll find capsules. I'll find by the ID. You see, while I'm clicking, this thing is updating, and I can also type it directly. So I can type it directly, and I'm being explicit here. I'll type query, and I'll say capsules. I get IntelliSense. Now capsules. What do I want to find capsules by? Okay, I'll use capsules S, which returns many capsules. Then I'll get their IDs. So just send me all the IDs. I just need IDs. So when I play this, you see, you see the shape of what I got is what I requested for. So that's, what GraphQL allows you to do. And that's how GraphQL works. All what I explained about GraphQL, that GraphQL allows you to query for what you want and get just that. Okay, and this is possible because all these schemas has already been defined at the back end, at the API level, the back end where this API was created. We'll get into looking into more of this. So as I did ID, now I can also do more. How do I know that I can also do more? If I come to the Explorer tab here, I see that I'm seeing something like status. I can get status, and I can get type. So I can type status, and I will send. You see, status is now coming. If I type something that is not here, let's say I type something rubbish, you see I get this red squiggle line telling me cannot find query field, blah 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 on type capsule. So you can only query for things that the query, like the field, the type supports, like the capsule type supports all these fields that I'm typing in. That's why it's working. Okay, so we'll get back to this. That's it for graphical. So graphical was that tool I showed you. The next one is this one is GraphQL Playground. So we'll just get to see it in action now. I'll open it. Come over here. Okay, so I'll paste the link. This should take me to graphical. Okay, this is it loading up. Wow, okay, I think I have the wrong one. Let me try if this will work. I had a different one before, but let me try if I can use this one here. Okay, I'll use that endpoint. So this is it. This is how graphical looks like. So I like this one because it's dark mode, and it's fine. I can query here on the right hand side. I can write queries, mutations, and all that. On the left hand side, I can find documentations, just like we're seeing it here. Okay, so that's just it. The last time I did it, documentation here, I crashed my system, so I will leave that for now, but probably I will correct it. So here it is. So I tested it out now. So we can click on docs. You can see the documentation here. It's still the same thing we saw here. So it's a matter of preference if you want to use something like this or you want to use this one. So right here we can get the documentation. We can see the schemas. The schemas I told you of. We'll talk in more details about this. You can see the type capsule. You can see the address. You can scroll down and all that. You can even download it if you want to use it for something else. So right here you can write your queries here. Let's try the queries. The query we wrote in the other place. I'll just try query. I'll say capsule. Okay, I'll try a query, then capsule. I'll get capsules. I'll return. I just need ID. Okay, so I'll play it and you see the result coming. And also next, what do I need again? Let me try and get status. I'll play it and I get status. So all this, each capsule, each result here, I have the ID and I have the status. So that's it. So this is GraphQL playground and this is graphical. So next, let's dive in deeper. Common terms used in GraphQL. So we're going into the main things in GraphQL. You have fields, you have types, you have schemas, you have queries, you have mutation, you have subscription. You've been hearing me mention queries, so we'll get to know what these things are. The next one is fields. A field is a single entity of a certain type. They could either point to another defined abstract type or a scalar type. The query on the right has fields, name, age, author. Now, what is this saying? When you look at this thing here, this is called, this is a way you declare your types. Now, a type now has things that they return, just like I showed you over here. Okay, let's use the schema here. You can see that this is a type capsule and it has fields on it. All these things inside this type are called its fields. Those are the things that you can get from this particular type capsule. So now fields can point to a scalar type. Scalar type is strings. There are values like strings, floats, integer, and IDs. These values resolve to just a unit value. They don't resolve to another type. So like a age, name here is just a string, age here is just an integer, a number. And the bang sign here, the exclamation sign, just means that it cannot be empty. So anybody using this type must provide a name and an age. The next type here you see here is post. Post now, the first one, title, is of type string. And it has another field, author. Author now it's of type person. And you see, person is an abstract type or an object type. It's pointing to a different type. So it's pointing to another type defined here, person. So when you're getting author, author is not a scalar type. Author is pointing to another type, which is person. So that's field. So when you see types inside another type definition, that's a field. So inside this type of post, we have two fields, title and author. Inside this type of persons, we have two fields, name and age. Now the name field is of type string. The age field is of type int. And here in this post, we have the title, which is of type string, and the author, which is of another type, person, which was declared here. So the next type is types itself. A type simply describe what kind of data to be returned. Some typo here. What kind of data to be returned? Types can either be scalar, which I mentioned, string, int, float, boolean. Okay, abstract or abstract. Abstract are used as defined types. Those are types that you define by yourself. Like the type here, person. Person is an abstract type. It's you that defined it. Compared to the name here, string, which is not. It wasn't you that defined this one. This one was understood by GraphQL. So, like post here, post is a type that you define. So these things here being defined are called types. Okay. The next one is schema. A schema is a blueprint of a GraphQL API. GraphQL servers uses schema to describe the shape of your data. This schema defines a hierarchy of types with fields that are populated from your back-end data store. I showed you a schema. A schema comprises of all your types and how they link together. Right here on this documentation, you can see the schema. You can see there are several types here and how they are relating to each other. You can see some types has fields that are pointing to another type. Like here, you have this capsule. This capsule have a field that is pointing to another field called dragon. And dragon is a field on its own. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you see a field called dragon. You see dragon here. You see a type called dragon. So GraphQL now it's like, if you think of it now, like if you analyze GraphQL, it's like a graph on its own where different nodes of types are pointing to each other. Where you have, like this example now, we'll have capsule having a field called dragon here, and dragon is of another type that has its own field. So under dragon, I can find active if the dragon is active or not. Okay, so that's just the understanding this basic concept is, what enables you use GraphQL. It's very simple, and once you get it, you start growing along and getting consistent with GraphQL. So the next thing is a query. A query is simply a way to fetch or retrieve data from a GraphQL API by specifying the needed fields exposed by that API. Now, what is a query? A query is the same thing, more like in the RESTful world where you make get requests. That's the same thing as a query. A query is a way for you to tell the API, just return this for me. I just need this. We've done a query. You've seen me do this before, where I just write query and I tell it to return something. So I'll do that again. Here you can see the query here. Now, query is a type on its own, but is a specific type known by GraphQL that when you say query here, you just want to send a query. Okay, so when I do query here, GraphQL knows that I want to make a query for something, maybe capsules, and I need the ID. That's a query. And also, if I don't specify query here, GraphQL also knows that by default it should be a query. See, if I play it, it still works the same way, and if I replace it with query, it still works the same way. So that's it for query. The next thing is mutations. Now, mutation is a way to mutation is used to create new data, update existing data, or delete existing data, just like your REST where you have posts, put, and delete. So you want to delete some data, you want to update, you use mutations. Okay, so if we go back to our graphical here, let's look for some mutations. So what I will do, I'll copy the ID of this capsule. I'll check if there is a mutation to delete it. So I'll scroll down. Okay, there is no mutation to delete the capsule, so I'll try that for users. I'll get all the users so I can get the ID, and I'll use a mutation to delete that particular user. Okay, so I've gotten all the users, so I want to delete this first user. I will copy it, copy the ID of the user. Now I'll comment this for now. Then I'll scroll down to delete user, which is a mutation, more like the delete. And for me to delete user, I need to specify an ID of the user I want to delete. Where ID, I'll use the equals. So I'll paste the ID here. So then I'll come here. What should I get back when this user is deleted? I just want the name. Okay, no, I just want what can I get back? Let me just open up this place. I'll just copy, comment this one, then I'll open up this one. Okay, affected rows. I'll just get the affected rows. Okay, so you see that the current user is 5.2. Okay, I'll just send a request now. And affected row, it has successfully deleted affected row 1. So one row in the database has been deleted. I'll comment this back and I'll try to get all the users again. Let's see if that user with a particular ID is still there. So you can see now it has updated. That's 5.2 user with ID 5.2 something has been deleted. So that's mutation for you. Mutation, you can use mutations to delete, to update, to post, or to create new items on the database. So the next thing is subscription. Subscriptions are a GraphQL feature that allows a server to send data to its clients when a specific event happens. They are similar to queries in that they specify a set of fields to be delivered to the client. But instead of immediately returning a single answer, a result is sent over time as a particular event happens on the server. Now, so all this is saying is that subscription is like where you have sockets, where you have web sockets, where you create a connection between the server and the clients. Where if there's any event occurring in the server, a node, we call them event emitters happening. You can, link it up to a socket where a client will get notification. Maybe you want to get notification if something happens in your server, if somebody makes a post, somebody created a new item on the server, you want some kind of client application to get a notification or to receive that data. So that's where you get to use mutations. Okay, mutation is a very powerful concept, and if you want to dive in deeper using mutation, I suggest you work with Apollo, which I will explain in details later on. Now, we've talked about GraphQL, we've talked about query, we've talked about mutations, we've talked about subscriptions. So how do you get to use these things? How do you get to build GraphQL applications? That's where libraries and framework comes into play. So we'll be looking at Relay, looking at Apollo, Sora, Prisma. So these tools enables you create GraphQL application, enables you, makes life easy for you. So the first is Apollo. This one is very good one. Apollo is the industry standard GraphQL implementation, providing the data graph layer that connects modern apps to the cloud. Now, what Apollo did, as I mentioned earlier on, was I told you that GraphQL was just a specification that was created by Facebook. So what Apollo did, they used that specification and built it into a library that you can use. You can use your normal JavaScript language and write GraphQL, build GraphQL APIs on both the client and the server. It has two variants, which is Apollo client, which is for React on the client side, and Apollo server, which you can use with Node and Express and all that. So that's Apollo for you. So you can, go into the Apollo documentation to get more of Apollo. I'll just open up, I'll copy the link here, and I will open up Apollo so you get to look at it. Always enjoy documentations. Now, most of the stuff I learned with GraphQL, I was reading the documentation, and the documentation here at Apollo is very, is documentation. You can, in fact, the tutorial here, if you go and start the tutorial, they will, walk you through the process of using, from installing it, from setting it up. You'll build a simple application that covers several areas concerning GraphQL. So I encourage you to check this out, both for the clients and for the server, whichever one you like. The next thing is Relay. Relay, this one belongs to Facebook. It's an open source library now by Facebook. Now, this one is mostly for React application. So as I said here, Relay is a production-ready GraphQL client for React. This library is used by Facebook. Some features include quick iteration, minimal round trip, and automated data consistency. So if depending on your team use case or the kind of project you're working on, most times, if a project is already built using Apollo at the back end, I see no reason why, or less you choose to still use Relay. You can also still use Apollo on the front end. It all depends on you. But I would suggest, if you're having a backend that's already built with Apollo, just keep up with Apollo on the front. And in case of some backend team is coming to the front, or you're moving to the back, you guys are using a similar framework. But Relay plays cool with React. They built it for React, and it's provide this your component bounding to your GraphQL API. So your component is tightly coupled to your GraphQL API, and it makes more declarative form of building components, and it's a cool technology or library to check out. So the next thing is Sora. Sora is an open source engine that connects to your database and microservice and auto-generates a production-ready GraphQL backend. So sometimes you would just want to spin up a GraphQL API. Sora makes it easy for you in the sense that it's just, you don't have to write much of the schemas. It just looks at your database and automatically expose a GraphQL API for you. So features, it's a real-time GraphQL on Postgres, built ready-to-use GraphQL applications. It allows you to build ready-to-use GraphQL applications, and also GraphQL with microservices. Okay, so if you have different services, each on its own, you can use Apollo to expose APIs and interact with those different microservices. These are things you should check out. And sometimes you'll be building a project, and you want to think of the best library to use. And that's very crucial, because it's the library you use can either make you faster or slower in the project. So once you have all these things under your tools belt, you'll be able to, okay, I have this choice, which one is better, which one should I choose? Okay, this one is this one is proper for this use case. When you have several options, you'll be able to choose which one is right for you when you know them all. So this is Sora for you. You can, like, I tried this on my own. I used the Heroku. They have a build pipeline, a build workflow that I can use on Heroku, and automatically attached a Postgres database, and within 20 seconds I've already set up this up and running. So try checking it out. The next thing is Prisma. Now Prisma is not specifically attached to GraphQL. You can use it with GraphQL, you can use it with REST, gRPC API, you can use Prisma also. So as I said, it's an open source database toolkit. It replaces traditional ORMs and makes database access easy. So when we all use something, like if you're working on the back end, you use something. Prisma is more or less associated with the back end. You don't use while you're using Prisma, you still write your schemas on top and all that. So Prisma now makes it easy for you to interact with your database. Normally you use an ORM like SQLite or Node or Mongoose or all those things. So depending on your database though, but Prisma I know is meant for Postgres. I'll just copy the link here and open up Prisma on so that you get to see it. So Prisma allows you to interact with your database easily. The APIs, the interface it provides, makes it easy for you. Rather than using an ORM like SQLite, you can use Prisma, and it's makes things easy while you're using it on GraphQL on your REST project. So when I heard about Prisma, I so much liked it, and I started exploring with it. So it's something you should check out. So you can see on the GIF here where they are just using it very much. It's very easy, quite declarative, and turns out to be a great product. You can use it on your next app, you can use it on Express, on GraphQL. Everything works well. So I cannot say much about I cannot talk about GraphQL without showing you something that I've experienced building with GraphQL. I've done much other things with GraphQL, but this is the one I can show you as a project I've done. So this project I built it using GraphQL and Apollo on the client with React, and I used the Hashnode's GraphQL API. It's a free API you can use, and I integrated. I wanted to just be like, okay, I'm a Hashnode developer and I'm a front end at Hashnode, and I want to build their I want to build their front end. So if I'm giving a GraphQL API, can I walk through, introspect through the using the tools I have, and build out something? So I was able to come up with this. This is using Apollo. So you can see all the posts now from Hashnode coming up here. You can see the post title, the images, and all that. All this is done using Apollo and GraphQL. So I can view posts. You can see the spinner coming up. When I scroll down, I'll see the post. I can also go back. I can go back to it. I can click another one. When I scroll down, more posts gets loaded in. Though I'm not doing it the right way I intend doing it, but I can view this one, see these other ones. I can view it, and everything works well. While building this application, I begin to love GraphQL so much that I want to build everything with GraphQL. So that's just the joy in these things. I can go back. So I provide you with the code. Is in my repository. You can find the link down here. You can copy it, modify it, check what I did, redo it, do whatever you like, use it to learn. The API, the API I use there is free. You can see it directly. You can introspect with it. So that's just it. So the next thing is resources. This is where I'm coming to a conclusion of this talk. Resources you can use here. You have tools like, you can find more tools from this post on Medium. You can see free APIs you can play with. Now, sometimes you don't want to start going into the hustle of creating a GraphQL API at the back end. You just want to use it on your front end and feel good, So this provides very cool APIs you can use to build applications and get used to GraphQL. This is a link to Prisma. This is the SpaceX GraphQL API I told you of that I used to show you things about graphical. Here you have GraphQL Playground, you have the Sora website, you have Apollo GraphQL, you have Learn Apollo. This link takes you to where you can learn GraphQL from the Apollo website, and you also have the GraphQL website. So these are the few resources I can get, and I know that if you're having questions concerning these things, do well to ask me in the comment section why this webinar is going on. Ask me your questions, I'll be there to answer you. If you're having any concerns you want to raise, ask me, I'll answer you, or send me a message directly, send me a message on Twitter, send me a message on LinkedIn, I'll answer you. So as a conclusion, now the whole thing boils down to choosing the right tools that fit your needs. There are several technologies, there are several ways to do one thing. And that's what sometimes in this tech stack, in this journey, it might be very overwhelming. Like you might get confused in the process. Or sometimes I want to build a front end application. I'll start wondering which CSS library should I use? Should I use Materialize? Should I use Bootstrap? Should I use this? All those things all boils down to your capability and need, to your team workflow. So here are common things that you should check out. First of all, if you want to use GraphQL or something like GraphQL, you should think about the use case. What do you want to use it for? Is it fitting in well for it? If really what you need was just to spin up a very little application that's not doing much and you're not doing it for learning sake, I don't see a reason why you should choose GraphQL if you're not doing it for learning purposes. But if you're building a standard application that I think you should consider using GraphQL. That's your use case. You should think about your use case. And also the next thing is your team workflow. Your team, what do they do? Do they use GraphQL? If your team, you have a team of 7 persons and you're the only one using GraphQL, that's good. You can introduce it to your team. But if you guys are building any product at that point in time, you might find it difficult choosing GraphQL. So these are things you should consider. The next thing is your business goals. Your business goals is what the business, you're writing an application that someone is using it as a business or is someone's business. So how does it fit in? Does it fit in right? Does it work for him? So those are things. And the resources available includes your money, your time. Time is a resource. Are you going to teach everything in your member to use GraphQL? That's all the things you should consider. But upon all, GraphQL is a wonderful technology that has come to stay. And trust me, if you learn GraphQL, you won't regret it, because so many things are coming up and they are based off GraphQL. Facebook uses it, GitHub uses it, several other companies use GraphQL. So I encourage you all to try and learn about this technology. If you're already using it, that's cool. Continue to use it, continue to build more applications with it, and trust me, sky is your stepping stone. So that's it for this webinar, and thank you all. If you've been here till now, trust me, I know you've gotten enough. So continue to learn. Thank you very much for staying here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.